Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, November 13th, 2020. Tax reform big enough for Texas. The Texas CPA Society magazine, Today's CPA, published an article written by Jade Walle in its November-December 2020 edition entitled, "A Tax Reform Idea Big Enough for Texas." Now, Jade is a partner in a Big Four accounting firm and a member of the AFFT Board of Directors. Now, we all know that Texas is the largest state in the continental United States, geographically speaking. It boasts a gross state product of $1.9 trillion. Now, to put that in perspective, Texas's economy is roughly the size of the entire Russian economy and would rank in the top 10 among all of the nations of the world. Knowing how big Texas is from a multitude of perspectives, it's fair to ask what kind of state tax reform idea would truly be big enough for Texas. In his article, Jade highlights the potential benefits of adopting a Texas FAIRtax system. Remember that Texas already has no state income tax, so Jade envisions Texas's FAIRtax replacing its current property tax system that's administered by the 254 different Texas counties, as well as its corporate margins tax. Currently, Texas's 254 counties spend, not collect, but spend, up to an estimated $500 billion annually in property tax administration costs and in other expenses. Now imagine for a moment 254 different counties all having to lease office space and pay for electricity, salaries, federal matching payroll taxes, printing, postage, aerial imagery, appraisal software, travel, litigation and protests with taxpayers, office equipment, public hearing notices, and on and on and on. The inefficiency is unbelievable, especially when compounded by the large population, size, and number of counties in the state. Now, a state fair tax would provide every Texas resident with a refund, we call it the prebate, so that there would be no tax on the basic necessities of life. The rate would be set so that the revenue it would generate would replace what is currently being generated by the state's personal property taxes and the Texas margins tax. Now, that's a tax on Texas businesses. Those two taxes would be eliminated under the FAIRtax plan. Now, Texas is already regarded as one of the most business-friendly states in which to set up shop, and replacing personal property taxes and the state's margins tax with a state fair tax would make it even more so. Also, a state fair tax would save up to $500 billion in expenses that local jurisdictions currently have to pay. Now, that saving alone would allow the fair tax rate to be significantly lower than one might otherwise expect. Eliminating county property taxes would have the additional benefit of removing an unintended inhibitor to public school excellence. High property taxes make home ownership in higher performing school districts less affordable, thus creating a barrier to entry into those districts. Now, removing that barrier would make it easier for families with children to move into those districts, and that, in turn, would put pressure on lower performing school districts to improve their programs. Said differently, the state fair tax eloquently injects more competition into school district performance, thus enhancing the quality of education for everyone. In conclusion, as Jade astutely points out, when a person is looking to buy a home, there's more to consider than just the home's purchase price. The family also has to include the property taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs. Although it varies by county, the average purchaser of a $200,000 home in Texas will pay an additional $350 a month in property taxes. For comparison, the average monthly payment on a $180,000 mortgage is $790 a month. That means that when you figure in the property taxes, a family may have to settle for a less expensive home than they really want. And also, having less money to use for their home purchase may keep them from buying a house in the school district that they really want for their children. Additionally, the property tax prevents any of us from really ever owning our home, even if we pay off the mortgage. Now, eliminating the property tax would remove the very real fear that homeowners have that they will not be able to stay in their homes because bureaucrats keep driving the price of homeownership up with constantly increasing property tax rates. And property tax rates don't just affect home buyers. They also dramatically affect renters. When property taxes go up, landlords have to increase the rents they charge in order to cover their costs, which of course includes their property taxes. Eliminate property taxes, and the competitive pressures in a free marketplace will drive rents down. It's a win-win for everybody. Renters pay less, and the landlord makes the same profit. Sam Houston is a Texas hero whose forces captured Santa Ana and gave Texas its independence from Mexico. He said, quote, "There would be no difficulty in securing the rights of the people and the liberties of Texas if men would march to their duty and not fly like recreants from danger. Texas must be defended and liberty maintained," end of quote. Texans have always had a fierce independent streak in them. They adamantly believe in the importance of the individual over government bureaucrats. Houston's sentiments don't apply just to Texans, though, but to all people who wish to remain free. The fair tax, be it at the state or national level, takes control over the taxes we pay away from the bureaucrats and places it back in our hands. So if you have friends who don't know about the fair tax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your member of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the fair tax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.